AI is going to eat the world. How do you see it impact in your role?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Better investor doesn't mean pick the next Tesla or Nvidia. It just means that you can sleep at night because you understand every variable that's related to your investment process.
How do you see the great wealth transfer affect your business?
I was asked by our own CEO.
All right, this is Mark here, co-founder of Blocks, and we're episode 1 of the new Wealth Advisor. And this show, this interview series is really about understanding what's going on in the industry for wealth advisors. And I was super excited for our first interviewer, which is Rob Iorio. Rob Iorio has been in the industry for over 25 years, and he started to talk about AI in 2021 when people weren't even thinking about it. At least in the industry, people weren't thinking about how AI will impact the business. And so I'm super excited to have him on the show. So welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you, Mark, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm honored to be your first guest. I hope I live up to the hype.
I'm sure you will. Actually, we've known each other now for, I think you were 10 years into your journey as an advisor, so 15 years ago. And what really attracted me to build a relationship with you was that you understood technology back then. And I think that what I've heard or read from you is that you've been reading up on history, like the past 200 years of history. And I'd love to get your feedback as how it shaped your vision of your practice today.
Yeah, so I can, I can go back, maybe do an origin story, but I think what you're referring to is we look at market cycles, but not only for our portfolios, but kind of anticipate what's going to happen next. And one of the things that we noticed is that history repeats itself over and over. So we go through these generational periods, and it takes, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years to work through certain, themes or whatever. And we notice that the patterns reoccur. So if you look back just to the last 100 years, starting from 1925, you'll see that we go through periods of sort of consolidation where the economy does poorly, there's really no innovation, and then we go through another 17, 18 years of innovation where the economy does well, the markets do well, and there's huge technological advancement. So I talk about this with clients. I'm a student of history, so everything we do as a team for our clients is based on past data. That's how because we don't know what's going to happen. You know this, Mark. Like it's futile to think you're gonna be better. There's maybe 10% of managers that can beat the market if you're managing funds for clients. And after tax and after costs, it's even less. So the reality is you got to know what the market is capable of doing. And then you got to use the past as a guide for how you advise people going forward. And so I started in 99, just to go back to my origin story. I was recruited out of my undergrad, and I was asked to come and work for the firm. And I started in the mailroom like everyone.
Did you?
Oh yeah. I did. Like I started as a summer student. I thought I was going to be trading, and I arrived in a 3-piece suit, and they're like, no. You need to go change and put some shorts on because you're going to be delivering Canada savings bonds on the street and working in the mailroom. So it was great because I got to really start from the bottom. I worked in operations for a year, and if you remember, in 99, I mean, we're about the same age. I mean, 98, 99, when I graduated, it was .com, right? So we were in university, we're in undergrad, and we're trading stocks with our phones, and we're trying to call, with our flip phones. And that's how, we were using dial-up, and that's the first, I guess, internet boom. It was the end of the boom, which was the 80s and 90s, which was led by computer technology in the hands of many. And then, of course, the internet, right? The internet changed the way we did business, and of course, created a bubble, and then that's all she wrote. So I started in a period where we had just gone through the second major technological advancement of the century, which was 80 to 90, 80 to 2000, if you will. And that was a great period to be an investor. So going back, in time, if you look at the last 100 years, those periods, they repeat themselves. So in the 50s and 60s, we had a big technological boom, and that was more industrial. So we went from horse and buggy in the early 1900s to full combustion engine in 1940, whatever, 1950. And then, of course, manufacturing using computers. And we put a man on the moon in 1968, whether you believe it or not, that actually happened. That was in the 60s. So So that was the first period of technological innovation. The second was the 80s and 90s, where we took computers and we gave them to everybody. And that was and we also had a period of disinflation because interest rates came down. That helps. Fast forward to today, since 2014, if you will, 15, we've seen really, we call it like, I guess it was Peter Thiel who said, software is going to eat the world. And today we really know it's AI is going to eat the world, because now software is getting eaten by AI. So that is, now we're in a period where data becomes power, and with that data we can now do things we never thought possible. So we have cloud computing, we have of course the advent of the data center, and now AI can use that information. It can actually perform tasks, which essentially allows us to be multiples of more productive than we were in decades past. So going back to history, all I have to say is that because I started at a time where the internet was just, booming, we were, first clients I had, some of them were tech entrepreneurs, just like you.
Yeah.
And so it was a natural thing for me to kind of like, what do these guys want? What do they need? But also to adapt and say, okay, how can I service in my industry? How can I be disruptive or not complacent? And how can I do things differently? And that's kind of where I am today.
And so, one of the things that you just said was that AI is going to eat the world, right? And so how do you see it impact your day to day and your role in your team as an advisor? And you're part of a big organization, RBC. I mean, it is the beast that it is. How do you see it being used for your own practice?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. So it's clear that we used to hire we hire, most of the people we hire are very bright. They're attracted to our industry. They want to work in our industry. So we tend to hire either people who have, MBA type backgrounds, CFAs. Mostly, I think RBC is the employer with the most CFAs in the world. If I'm not mistaken, that's an actual stat. You can look it up. And if not, it's in Canada. I can't remember if it was Canada or the world. I think it's the world. So we hire very bright people, and that's just the nature of what we do. And we used to hire people to perform tasks, right? To get tasks done and to either model certain forms of coding. That does not need to happen anymore. So how is AI going to change the world? Is those jobs which were very task driven or very administrative now are, for us, we don't see the need for them. And again, it's not happening fast enough because we're a big organization, Mark. As you know, we don't deploy, technology very quickly. But it's already to the point where we can, we don't need those admin tasks to be done in the back office. They're already being replaced. It's already pretty much happening. And even at our level, at the portfolio manager level, where we have private clients, booking meetings, that sort of thing, all that could be automated now. So that has created a whole new, let's call it skill set. And the skill set now is you have to be creative. Creative people, we have to be able to give advice. So the people we hire have to be communicative. They have to be talking to our clients, understanding the needs of the clients. Why are we here? It's not about performing the task. That should be done by our agents or whatever
Yes,
whatever AI we're
intelligence.
using.
Well,
Yeah.
and that has been always the way I've looked at things, where humans in general, we've been trained to be robots, to do and especially in a role like you, where you have a lot of things that needs to be done for compliance, for procedures, reasons, and all that. We've become robots and robots and robots. Well, ultimately, if we can get rid of those tasks that are making us robots and give it to actual robots, AI, to actually do those things, you can actually do what I think, at least it's my perception, you probably got into this role because you love interacting with people. You
Correct.
love building these relationships and that trust. And it allows you to get back to that core of why you're in this business.
And hire accordingly, right? So now, as we hire these smart people, we want to hire
Yeah.
people who can explain things in an easy way, can inspire. So I've been asked. So I in November I presented, and you can check it out on LinkedIn. I presented to our management team in Florida, and they had like a big manager conference, all of the managers across the country, and they asked me these exact questions, and I said, "What do you think we do? What do you think the portfolio manager, the modern day portfolio manager does?" And then the typical was, "Well, you guys manage portfolios and you do planning and you do the," but the reality is what we really do now, because a lot of this is automated, it's very simple. We educate, teach, and inspire. So think of us as, so you can go to the gym. Mark and I were talking before we started recording. We're talking about going to the gym. What do you do? Okay, you keep fit. How do you keep fit? What do you do? So you can go to the gym and you can push weights, or you can get on a treadmill, or you can get on a bike, and we know that you can get results, but you may not get optimal results. The minute you get a
Yeah,
personal trainer, what happens, Mark? You're going to push 10% more. You're going to stay a little
100%.
longer. You're accountable, and that's essentially what we are. The clients are accountable. We're accountable to them. They're accountable to us, and it creates this feedback loop. And so you get things done. We inspire them to do things they never thought they'd do, and that's kind of our role now. Our role is more along those lines, educating, teaching next gen. Become the gatekeeper, because people have emotions. It's easy to use the eye, but are your emotions getting the best of you? Like all those little nuances, that's what our job is now, and it'll be more amplified as AI helps us do what we do.
And actually, you opened the door to kind of the next area where I wanted to dive into, which was the great wealth transfer. You talked about, your job is about building the relationships with the individuals, and you even talked about training the next generation. How do you see the great wealth transfer affect your business, and what are you doing to cater to that?
Yeah. So another thing I was asked at this manager conference, I was asked by our own CEO, how many of the kids are working with you now, Rob? As your clients get older and the kids turn 18, how many of you staying? And he's like, most of what we're hearing is these kids want to do it on their own because they can use large language models. They can do it on Questrade. But what we're also hearing is that the ability to emotionally contain themselves and to not bet the farm on X, Y, or Z is very difficult for the average person. Now, there are 5% of the population or 10% of the population that can make unemotional decisions very robotically and very disciplined. It exists. And there's also a correlation between that 10% and who goes really far in life, and that's fine. But the reality is that most people cannot. And so everything is gamified. They do need, it's like school, because I don't need school anymore because I can get everything off of ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude. Well, the reality is you still need to go to school, because in school you do develop the capabilities to make better decisions, the abilities to interact with people, to see other points of views. That cannot be replaced. And so where I see the kids is we will be there. Now, whether or not it's going to less maybe for execution of transactions, which I'm fine with, by the way. I think that was long gone a long time ago, since our era, but it more along the lines of actual advice, actual inspiring, telling them to do things differently, think about things differently, coaching, teaching, educating, empowering. Like all those things matter, and that's our job. And maybe our client base narrows because the masses could use, automated services, but that's not our client base. Our client base is that 10% that really need wealth management advice.
At what age do you think it makes sense to start interacting with the next generation?
So I'm quoted as in saying it's never too young. And I think you and I have spoke about this. It can start as soon as you think a parent thinks it's time. So if we see child has interest, starts to save his dollars or her dollars and starts to put money in a bank account, the conversation can start. So it starts with financial education, if you will, intro to investing. But it's really like, what do you know about this? What do you know about money? You've received money. You've made a little bit of money. You've received a gift from grandparents. You got money on your birthday. What do you do with this money? What are your options?
Mhm.
And then it opens the door to, okay, I can leave it in cash. I can put it at the bank. I can invest. What does invest mean? And then it opens the door to things like compound interest. So it's all about kind of getting them, sparking that interest. Because let's face it, in school, they don't really teach us stuff until later. And even then, it's all gamified.
Yeah.
They're not teaching like compound interest. And so it kind of, and let's face it, parents, they're not going to listen to you guys. Because the parents, like my daughters, don't listen to me. They'll listen to a professional. They'll sit down. They'll listen to the uncle who has a lot of advice. They're not necessarily going to listen to mom or dad because we're the parents. So they need that third party to say, okay, here's what it's all about. And by the way, watch this video and check this out and look at the compound interest that can happen. So this can start, I would say, the minute they start doing simple mathematics. So as young as, 9, 10 years old, ideally teens. And then, so they have a few years of kind of like seeing their little
Training.
account go up. And then by the time they're 18, then it's time to open all these various, tax-free savings, start the financial journey. They're ready. So it doesn't have to be, hey, mom and dad did this for you. It's they get their own stuff. They get their own package. And so how many kids at 18 would love to have that? And they just don't tell you because, you know, ah, you know. So
Absolutely.
that's
And
that's the key.
what I really like about you, you're not only one of the top performers in Canada when it comes to wealth advisors, but you also try to educate the market. Like you have your own podcast, which is Behind the Numbers, I think it's called.
Correct. Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, you even started at one point a series where you were training, like you were giving a bit mini courses for the next generation
That's right.
on
That's right.
how to invest, right? Which talks to your strategy about building that rapport, building that and going to where they are. It's not necessarily where they want to be in a class, but they want to listen to these short training sessions.
Yeah, that's and we did that because we saw where things were going. We knew just talking to them on a screen wasn't enough. We need to do a little more. We need to show them videos. And there's a few videos I love to use. We did a few internally. They're old. We have to redo them. I'm not going to lie. The wealth management side, we don't invest a lot on marketing. So, but definitely those videos help because we start with the basics
Absolutely.
and then we get into compound interest and then we get it. And we use images, right? So we've always been known as a team to use images in what we do because people can associate with those images. And so, yeah, we've done those. I like to send videos from. There's one from Bill Ackman from Pershing Square. It's an awesome video about compound interest. I'm not a fan of Bill, everything he does, but I love this financial literacy video he did like 20 years ago. I still use it today. It's fantastic. So I send these little clips to the kids, and that's how we get them curious. And then, of course, they start looking, they start getting interested. They see the compounding effect happen over 5, 6 years, and then they're addicted like anything else. But they're addicted to the compounding, not the gamification of it, which is what today most kids do because it's easy to bet online. And that's not what we want to promote. We want to really promote solid system. We want to promote advice. We want to promote that, educating, teaching, empowering. That's really what it's all about. That's how you get real. That's how you get real results.
I agree. I agree. And one thing that has always amazed me by your practice is your team. You've got a really strong team that's dedicated. I don't know what you do because it seems that they're always on top of things, proactively reaching out when when you don't even think it, like me, I won't even think about it. They're reaching out, say, hey, have you thought of this and that? And don't forget, you need to do this. So they're always on top of it, which probably means that there's a lot of administrative things happening in the background for the hamsters to keep going so that things
Oh
happen.
yes.
And I'm sure that over 25 years, you've honed a lot of those processes over time. My question is actually, what are they doing today that you wish they didn't have to do?
Mm. So we're still performing tasks, and so again, our tasks are becoming easier. I have to say, Mark. Finally, we have the Anthropic or the Claude to help us curate information or summaries. It's we finally have those capabilities. We still don't have all the capabilities that we'd love to have, but we have some of those now, and so those are allowing us to do those tasks quicker. So a
Hmm.
lot of the tasks that we do are they're um, they're unique to the client, right? Every client's different. The
Mhm.
template's the same, the system's the same, but the actual, A, B, and C and D and what we're known for, which is the like you said, is how did these guys think of this? How is everything calendarized? And so there's a system behind that. But every one of those clients is unique. You may need estate planning purposes. The next one might need insurance planning purposes. Another one might need financial literacy for the kids. Everybody's at different stages, right? So what I wish they didn't have to do anymore was to actually physically do some of them. I wish a lot of those were just we had agents and they were just pushed to us. So I know it's coming. I know it's coming,
Yeah.
and essentially just say, arrive to a meeting and just do what we do best, which is interact. And that's really what we should be doing going forward. Then the buttons that we have to push today, those should be eliminated. Like we shouldn't have to push any buttons anymore. It's already happening on the portfolio side, A lot of what we used to do manually now has been we use AI for it. I'm not gonna lie, we use Claude for Claude or Claude, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it, for
Yeah.
most of we have for our dashboard, which we used to enter variables manually every week. That's all gone, thank God. And so yeah, so it's getting better, and that's what I wish we didn't have. There's those menial tasks that take up an hour or two or three of our day, which is just you never get back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's definitely, do what you do best and let the robots do what you don't
That's right.
have to do. The one thing that, comes to mind is when we started interacting, like I said, you've always had a tendency to really understand what was happening from a technology standpoint. But it wasn't only in terms of operations, it was actually also part of your investment theses that you would be able to make. um, I'm going off path here, but I'd really want to understand, how do you go about assessing which companies you think have a future from a technology standpoint and which do not? When do you feel that it's de-risk enough that you should jump into it, and when
Mm.
do you feel it's too early or it's too uncertain?
So I think in the beginning I did mention, and it's worth mentioning, and I'll repeat it again. We don't bet the farm for anything. Right? Our
Yeah.
job. Maybe I'll say our why. The why is clear. Having this conversation, you know already why I exist. It's pretty clear for you. I think your
Yeah.
listeners, maybe not everybody understands it because they don't know me well enough. The why is very simple. We help make our clients, their families, and everyone around them into better investors. It's a blanket statement, but it's actually a really, really focused why. And better
Yeah.
investor doesn't mean pick the next, Tesla or Nvidia. Better investor means, awareness, inspired, um, uh, it just means that you can sleep at night because you understand every variable that's related to your investment process. Does that make sense? So,
Yes. Yeah.
so empowered is a good word, right? Okay. Now, going back to how do you pick the next big one? I want to say that, you know, we've always used the core of our portfolios has always been, it's been simple, is my job is not to bet the farm. So to get you from here to here, so that let's say from point A to point B in 10 or 20 years, whatever our target is, we need the highest probability with the least amount of friction and the lowest cost. That's what we look for. Okay, that's when we build a portfolio. So we're trying to get S&P like returns, and that means we're going to use the S&P as the center of our portfolio,
Yeah.
right? And that it took me a while to realize, but I've always known, and it's been a long time now we've been doing that. And then all you need to do, it's not super complicated, but you just need to wait around that, a few companies that are changing the world. And that happens. It's as simple as, keeping your eyes open and looking around. And it's as hard as, oh man, you have to really be able to see the matrix. So there's no, I guess Peter Lynch it used to be a very famous investor in the 1980s. Peter Lynch managed the Magellan Fund for Fidelity. I think he made 27% returns year after year. It's a goddamn legend. And he said it's very simple. Just look at what your kids are buying, look what your wife is buying, keep your eyes open, look around you, and just be aware. Don't just look at the numbers. You really have to think about the why. Example, you would have never invested in Nvidia based on the numbers because it wouldn't have made sense. You would have never invested in Tesla based on the numbers when they IPO'd because, God, they lost money for years. But you have to be able to look a bit past that. And so if you have a disciplined approach where you have the core of the portfolio, S&P linked and all that kind of stuff, and then around that you can afford to make little bets here and there because those are the things that are gonna make that difference, right? And so that's, again, it goes to systems, discipline, history as a guide. People like me should not be betting farm on anything. And we should be controlled, but we also have to expose you guys to kind of what we think is going to work next. And it does require a little bit of, a bit of thinking and ingenuity.
Rob, I think that those are words to the wise. Ultimately, what I've learned from you, from interacting with you for 15 years now, it's about, first, I think you're really about understanding the individual, right? And so it's the core to the relationship. and that's what you do, and that's what you do very well. So you understand what I'm looking for versus another of a client may have different priorities, objectives, and then and so that really is has been, I think, your biggest strength. And then from there, you've got an awesome team that can also execute, and keep things on track. And that means you've got processes, but you're also looking at always ways to improve those processes. And then you layer on top of that your mindset, your strategic mindset in terms of investment, and your approach to that, which has been thought through with 200 years of history
Correct.
backing it, which makes it, which is to me the reason why you're an awesome, top performer in the country when it comes to, your role, your job.
Thank you.
So
That's
let's.
that's pretty much it. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And it's but we call that the team approach. We call that incremental improvements. Like, so you're not looking to constantly. You're just looking to get 1% better every week.
Yeah.
There's a stat, right? If you get 1% better every month, you compound at about 12.7%. Get 1% better every week, it's 67.5% or something like that. So 67% better at the end of the year is a massive, massive increase. So
100%.
all you need to do is
Yeah.
get 1% better all the time. It's that relentless pursuit of doing more, doing something slightly better, which allows you to kind of hone your skills. And that's, by the way, that's in whether you own a startup, whether you own a giant business, whether you're a wealth manager, it's all relative, right? Great entrepreneurs will have that relentless pursuit, and I guess maybe that's the secrets of this all.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want people to know? I know people can check out your blog, your podcast, Behind the Numbers. Is there anything else you want to everyone to know?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I think it's a pleasure knowing you. We've learned a lot from each other. I always appreciate your take on things, Mark. You're level-headed, and it's been awesome getting to know you over the last 15 years. So thank you for having me as your first guest.
Well, thank you for being on the new Wealth Advisor.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.